Hello everybody and welcome to the What's On podcast. This is episode 11 and today we're going to be talking about 1917. My name is Zachary.
My name is Ryan.
And we're going to start off as normal with a bit of the week's news and then get right down into it. So starting off into some movie stuff. James Bond. Billie Eilish, I've never heard much of his music.
Her.
Is it her?
It's a her.
Is it her then?
Billie Eilish, it's a her.
Go on.
What?
Oh no, I was saying...
No, 17-year-old girl.
Right. I've not heard of her. I've not heard of her music. I knew of her from like social media and such like, but is she a good singer? Is she?
Yeah, she's alright. She's interesting.
Yeah. In what way?
It's alright music. It's very like provocative and sexualised and stuff. Why?
For a 17-year-old?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, fair enough. But she's been announced to sing the song for Bond next in this No Time to Die.
Mm-hmm.
Also, a couple of other interesting things was Rami Malek, who's the villain in it. He said in an interview he still doesn't know his own character's name apparently.
Oh, that's good.
Which is obviously some sort of plot point.
Yeah.
But I think that's interesting on what that's going to be. I've got a random thing that came into my head that he's going to be called James Bond as well, but I don't think that's going to happen. That was just a random thing that came in. He might be called Safin, but we don't know. But it was just an interesting thing that he said.
Yeah.
And a big thing that was to do with Bond was Barbara Broccoli, who is the producer. From my understanding of reading it, she's the producer who decides who Bond's at, who plays the Bond. She produces the films, and obviously directors direct the film. But she said that Bond will never be a woman, at least while she's producing it.
Yeah.
And I like the way she worded it, I like the way she's wording it, and now I'm gonna plagiarize. I've not got it written down word for word, but along the lines of, rather than trying to take these male-centric roles, which are male characters, there should be female characters that women should make for themselves and be good characters.
Well, it's what we said, isn't it? Because we said that they shouldn't be trying to jump on the bandwagon of something that's already established as what it is and changing the gender just because you feel like it.
Yeah, or trying to be more inclusive.
No, that James Bond is James Bond. Yeah. It's a man. So they need to make their own roles.
Yeah.
If
it's the exact same character, but in a different... if it's the same story, if it's a MI6 agent, if it's this, but it's just a woman, but a different character, and someone makes it a female actress makes it amazing. That's great, but it doesn't have to be
Jane
on
Bond.
The back of a name that everyone knows.
Yeah. Jane Bond, James and Jane Bond, put them together.
Matrix 4. We mentioned that a couple of weeks ago, I think. And Hugo Weaving's not going to be in it, which it's for scheduling difficulties is the reason why he's not in it, but I'm also glad he's not in it because of the ending of the third film, which I think would have just negate it.
Yeah.
And it's meant to be its own thing as well. So, but
see how that pans out then.
In terms of scheduling, he seems a bit miffed about it, sort of.
So he wants to be in it.
What the story apparently is, he said in an interview, was him and Lana Wachowski, who I think is the daughter or the sister of the Wachowski brothers who made the original Matrix. Is that they scheduled it because he'd already signed on for a different project, and they'd scheduled the dates so that he could do both.
Yeah,
he could act in it, but then he said she changed the dates on and said, okay, it can't work anymore, so it can't be in it. So I think he was up for it, but
got changed.
So I'm not too bothered because I think, like I said at the start. Star Wars is an interesting one because your favourite film is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. What's your favourite film in Marvel?
Favourite film in the Marvel's Ragnarok.
Yep. And who directed it?
Oh,
putting you on the spot here.
You have. I can't remember now.
Taika Waititi.
Yep.
He's been, because he does some of the... he does directing for The Mandalorian, which is a Disney Plus show. He has been apparently it's been reported that they've approached him to say, would you do a Star Wars film, a full feature-length Star Wars, which I think would be good.
Yeah,
I think he would do a good job of it.
Bringing a bit of humour and a bit of seriousness, doesn't it? The seriousness.
And he's just done like Jojo Rabbit, I think his last project was, which was that comedy set in Nazi Germany during Nazi time in Nazi Germany. I've not seen that, but heard good things. And it's been nominated for a few things at the Oscars as well. Tarantino, I think he said in an interview, which we've said a couple of times over the last few episodes ago, and I think a lot in the Marvel podcast we did, which is he said he feels the last year was a war of the movies between traditionally known movies, like stuff that he's making or original ideas, and the big comic book movies, the Star Wars, and there was something else, but I can't remember. But he feels like it's a constant battle. And we've talked about this, like the plethora of comic book movies is just every month it's a different one.
You just keep getting announcements and releases, and
a very small percentage of the movie, decent movies, I don't know, decent movies in like go to the cinema. It's like half and half of original and comic book or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I agree what he's saying in terms of it is a battle now, isn't it?
Exactly, it is definitely.
I think we've talked about this in the couple podcasts, so I won't go over it again, but we've shared ideas on if we think the superhero genre is going to drop down a bit. I think we talked about that in episode 4, I think, in the Marvel one, but won't go over it again.
No.
What else was there? Do you have anything for movies?
Have anything for movies? Well, I've got that, funnily enough, about the MCU and comic book movies is Captain Marvel 2 has been confirmed to be in the works, and they're looking at releasing it in 2022.
Okay.
So there's another one for that.
Yeah.
Another one I've seen as well is the Bad Boys 4.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, is possibly in the works as well.
Yeah.
Even though they were saying that this is the one last time. But I've not seen
the most recent one now. Yeah.
New one yet, but apparently there's obviously like cliffhangers and stuff trying to get a sequel and stuff. So we'll see how that pans out. I need to watch this new one first for that. Otherwise, for movies, we've got maybe one more. So about 1917, funnily enough, it's got the award for outstanding producer of theatrical motion pictures at the Producers Guild Awards.
Nice.
In the last few days, so that's always a good one to get. But films wise, that's about it.
The only other thing that I saw was a bit ironic was, and we talked about this this film a couple of episodes ago, was Wolf of Wall Street.
Yep.
Jordan Belfort, the actual person, he's suing the studio that did Wolf of Wall Street for their entire box office, 300 million, because they apparently missold him his rights to use his story and blah blah blah. And they basically turned around and said, this is an ironic thing that he sold it and he's trying to use pretense and stuff like that. I thought it was just a bit funny, really.
Doesn't change. Doesn't change his character at all, does it?
TV stuff. A funny one was, because you've watched episode 2 of The Witcher now, haven't you?
Yes.
So you've heard the Tuscaloosa Witcher.
Yep.
That has been put on Spotify now, and people have been in rapturous applaud.
It's a good song.
Yeah, it catches anything, and people are just celebrating that it's now on like Spotify. Crisis, I mentioned this a couple of times, which was the DC crossover stuff. I mentioned a few big crossovers that they did with it over various TV shows, but this was on a next level where they brought on the Ezra Miller Flash from the movies.
Yep.
They brought him into the TV show, which I think is very surprising that they cross him over. But I think it's just a really good thing that they've done with this. It's next level what they've done with this crossover and such like. Watchmen, they made a TV series of it. The Watchmen, the Dr. Manhattan. Do you remember that sort of movies?
Yeah. No, I don't know about the TV series.
So HBO, I think it is, they made a TV show which was like a sequel to that film, or a sequel to that story at least, because it's based on comics. They made a season of it as that sequel series, and the directors stepped away from it saying, I've done what I wanted to do with that season, it's finished where I wanted to go. And I've not watched it, so I don't know anything about it, but I just want to talk about that idea of doing one season of something and just going, that's the story I wanted to tell, and it can stay there. Because everything that's like a lot of things nowadays, it's season 2, season 3, season 6.
When you get loads of seasons, well, that's how TV shows are, aren't they? You're expecting more.
Yeah, I think it's nice to hear about. It may be good or bad, but it's just the idea of someone going, I've said what I wanted to do in one season.
Yeah.
Not bothered about like money or something like that's the story I wanted to tell.
Yeah.
Leave it there. Any TV news?
Yeah. Bit of a sad one, really. This one. It's the Obi-Wan series. It's been put on hold at the moment for the scripts to be rewritten.
Oh, God.
They've never said why. It just literally said that the scripts are going to get rewritten and then production will carry on. So it was meant to be coming out this year. I don't think that's going to happen now.
This is Disney Plus, isn't it?
Yes, it is, which is a bit of a shame. And then moving on to the other thing that I saw for TV was that Disney Plus has now been announced when it's going to launch in the UK, and it's going to be the 24th of March.
Yeah, because did it get shifted back a week early or something like that?
So you only have to wait 2 months today.
Yeah. Oh yeah, good point.
For our recording, 2 months today. Otherwise, that's all I've got.
Yeah. And last bit of gaming stuff. A bit of a first bits of news I've got really are a bit bugging for some people, but is game delays, which was Cyberpunk 2077, which is CD Projekt Red. We've mentioned these before as from who made the Witcher 3 or the Witcher games. That's been delayed from April to September, which is gutting, but it's also it's going to be a decent game.
Yeah.
If they're going to make it even better or perfect it or make it better in any way, like they can only release it once. So some people are like hard at them, going, "Why is this? Tell us this. If you're not going to do it that day, don't tell us a release date." But I think just leave them alone, because as long as they make a decent product at the end of it and it comes out,
at least though that they've delayed it if they know that the product wouldn't be good enough in April. So if they've delayed it, that shows that they're willing to make it better before it's even released. Unlike some other game developers who will just go
software
have
update
that
or patch.
and we'll patch them.
Yeah. So a bit gutting, but I think it's unfair to be like so entitled to go, how dare you push this back and such like.
Things like this happen.
Yeah.
Just going to have to deal with it.
Let them do the job and they're going to bring out a decent game at the end of it.
Exactly.
Well, that's everything I saw. Well, actually, there was one more thing that I wanted to go, which was have a bit of a mention for a couple of deaths that unfortunately happened this week, which were Terry Jones from the Monty Python series, who directed like Life of Brian, Holy Grail, and Christopher Tolkien, who was he the son or grandson of J.R.? I think he was the son, but he wrote the Silmarillion and expanded the Middle Earth universe. So I just wanted to mention them. They've unfortunately died this past week, and thank them for their contributions, because I know a lot of people have loved their works. So 1917. I don't think it's a disagree to say we both love this film.
It's very, very good film.
So, do you want to give a brief overview of it?
Yeah, it's basically the plot of it is really simple. It's a simple story. It's from a story that the director Sam Mendes got told by his grandfather, who was a soldier. It's just a snippet from his book or whatever, a bit of story based on it, really.
Yeah.
So it's set in April 1917, and it follows the story of two lance corporals in the British Army called Blake and Schofield, who were given a task by the general to deliver a message to the Devons, 2nd Devon Regiment, telling them to call off their attack tomorrow on the German lines about 9 miles away, due to it being a trap and they can't get in touch with them. And it also brings in that Blake's brother, Lieutenant Blake, is also among them. So if they don't deliver their message in time, 1,600 men will die. About it. That is the story.
So I just had a bit of like info in there just to make it understandable. People who may not have seen it is the Germans have done a tactical retreat from what they thought was the line, and a certain lieutenant, is it, from Batch's character?
Oh, it's Colonel Mackenzie.
Colonel Mackenzie. He believes that he is pushing the Germans back, whilst aerial footage or captures are showing that this is a tactical retreat and they're going into a trap.
Yeah.
But the Germans have cut telephone lines so they can't contact this Colonel Mackenzie, and that's why they need to send these 2 soldiers to let them know in person that this is happening and to stop the attack. That was just a bit of extra info for people who may not have seen it yet. But just before we go into like the nitty-gritty of the story, you say about how simplistic the story is, and I just wanted to talk about what actually makes like the film like this. It can be either like story, which although this is the story of this film, like some have wildly more interesting, like this it's in a different universe, or it's a different galaxy, or if it's different physics, or if it's different weapons, and it's all this. But then other things make it like the setting, like the setting of this brings in its own drama, which is it's set in the First World War. That setting right there already puts in a lot of tension, it puts in a lot of pressure, it brings in things you know about it already.
The Great War, the war that killed the most soldiers. In a way, it's a horrific war and a horrific thing to be in. And like you said, like it brings in tension. This movie is intense.
Yes,
it's very, very tense throughout the whole thing. You're on the edge of your seat, like what's happening here? Is this what's gonna go on? Like it's mad. And
we'll go in depth about the cinematography, but a big part of the tension is created by that constant being part of the trio. Like you're more of a trio, aren't you?
Well, yeah, it's more like you're not looking over it. You're kind of like in the perspective of following them, so you're seeing it from a soldier's perspective, in a way. So it kind of makes you feel like you're there, and so when they're tense, you're tense.
And then other parts that make film is like obviously the characters, how well they are relatable, how you understand them, and some films don't do that. Some films are just about spectacles, about set pieces, about big action scenes, and some films are about these characters. Like this film is a lot about the characters and how they act in this setting. And of course there are set pieces such as like the plane scene, the artillery scenes near the end, but it is more about the characters and how they're acting in this environment and who they are. And a big part of this film I felt was the realism. I think they did a really good job of giving a very accurate, it's still a movie, but the most accurate depiction I think of any film that I've seen in regard to war.
And definitely World War One.
Yeah, especially, and that's not just, and because it was on so many levels that I liked how realistic it was. Like, there's obvious things that you can do about realism, which is like injuries at the end, which it didn't hold back on. But I think it's very easy to it's easy to go, how can you make it realistic or injuries and such like. But it was like they built the trenches. They during the explosion scene, the rat scene, like it's caving in, like all these things are stuff you can imagine happening or have happened or will have happened.
Yeah, well, it's the same as well for if you're watching, say, like in the first 15 minutes in the British trenches, you're just watching if you look in the background, obviously at the soldiers and everything, they're just waiting.
Yeah,
they're not doing anything else, and that was their day.
Yeah, some are reading, some are eating, some are like warming over a tin.
Some are sleeping.
Yeah,
playing cards, anything just to keep the time going. It obviously, like you said, it's very realistic, and it brings you kind of into how it was. Yeah, it was generally a game of waiting. It was a war of waiting most of the time.
So actually, I'll start with the cinematography actually, or at least how it's presented to the audience, which is it's filmed as a continuous take. Yep. So that is. There's no cut, so a cut for people who don't know what it is, it's like when a camera shifts perspective, like you might be looking at one character and then it's immediately looking at another character, or there is a cut to a black screen and then it appears at a different scenery. that's what a cut normally is. And this is filmed to show that there is no cuts, or it's filmed in a way that there is minimum cuts in the film, like continuous take. So the camera.
Yeah, you never really see any cuts.
Yeah,
it's seamless.
Yeah, in
a way, that's how they've made it.
Yeah,
I mean, you obviously know that they don't actually just keep rolling. Like, it keeps going, keep going. Come on, we're going to do all the film today.
Yeah,
but they do it in ways to make it look like it's seamless.
I mean, they do it in such a good way, unless you are looking for it, which I think we probably did.
We were definitely looking.
You couldn't tell.
No.
Apart from there is only one hard cut, which is when he gets knocked out. That is the only obvious one. Mm-hmm. Maybe the jump in the river scene as well, but the most obvious one and the only hard cut that you can tell is the knockout scene. But the camera is always following them. It's always going like that's either in front of them, following behind them, and it's staying with one of the characters. Yeah, it's just an amazing way they've done it.
The bit of trivia I got from it was that their longest take was actually only 9 minutes. 9 minute long take.
And this is a 119-minute or 2-hour film. Obviously that's credits as well, but a 2-hour film, and they've just stitched it together where it does look as if it's been done in 2 continuous takes.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, like you said, we were looking for it, and I could see when they'd actually done it. So it was like, I think the first time that I noticed they'd done it was when they were going they were in the German trench, and they were going into that tunnel. Yeah. And then it kind of shifted past the rock or something like that. When it goes just going into the dark. Yeah. That's a cut. Oh, and just after they went over the top in the first part, when they went behind a rock.
I mean, that is perfect opportunity
for that, very good, yeah.
They're like fixed objects that, as long as they have the camera in the same position, which I imagine is not. Well, it might be difficult, but I don't imagine it's hugely difficult as long as nothing moves. Yeah. They can have that fixing and just carry on at the next take. Yeah. But it is. You wouldn't know it if you just went in and watched the film.
Exactly, no, you wouldn't.
So, amazing way of watching. So I just wanted to go into a few like scenes throughout the movie and then be sure to like deviate or if there's anything that pops in. But the first thing to do with like realism and to do with like modern day stuff that made everyone cringe in the cinema I was in was after he cuts his hand in the barbed wire. First of all, that was ishy in itself when he was like stuck in. It was also and I say that to you and deviating myself is that was the best or the first interpretation or first viewing of how they laid out the barbed wire in the World War, because every film that I've seen prior, like there's barbed wire just strewn about. Yeah. I think this was the first film that I saw how it actually was, how it was a way to stop people getting through. And I don't think I've seen as good an example of how bunched together it was as that.
Well, that's it. I mean, like, you see some other films and it's just line here, line there. Yeah. You can see where they get through. Yeah. Whereas in World War One, it was you get this tangled, you make it messy so that they cannot find a way through. Yeah. And only your side knows where there is actually like a narrow path. Yeah. Like you said, the part that the officer told him, there's one narrow entrance for you to get through. Look for the bowing man. Yeah. And there's an opening there. Use that.
So I thought I'm deviating myself, but I think that was a really good, a small thing in it, the way they used the barbed wire accurately. But going off from that, after he cuts his hand with the barbed wire, was the hand through the guy's stomach. Like when there's a hole in the guy's chest and he puts it in, mixed blood after he's just cut himself. I think everyone in the cinema cringed. Yeah. They were just like, oh no. And he even gives a look just like, ugh.
Yeah, disgusting. Well, that was another realistic thing as well. It's like seeing the bodies strewn about, decaying.
Like some like just buried, like packs, shoes, bodies.
Skeletons, where they've definitely started to properly decompose and they're just trying to get around them and everything, floating in the water and stuff. They're just everywhere.
So I've set some stuff out, so I'm going to go through scenes. If I've gone past a bit that you think, then just let me know. But the next big thing that I found was the rat scene, which is when they are underground, going through the trenches and underground sections of the trench. And there are these big rats, that one of which sets off a tripwire. So first thing I want to say about that was, it was an interesting scene when they're going in, because they're exploring how the Germans have built this underground area, and then it immediately changes to a tense moment because it goes tripwire. And we're with them because of the way the camera is, the way they're filming, so we're looking for it as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And I said it a minute ago, but it does feel like you are part of of a trio, like you are another one who is just following with them. And then the rats triggers the tripwire like a son of a git. Which was a very shocking scene, explosion loud. I watched it in IMAX, which was quite a funny story actually. We went to D18. We went to see it. Went to a screen, ordered it, and the guy said, "Oh, it's freezing in that cinema at the moment, so we've had to move everyone to the IMAX cinema." Oh God! It's rubbing hands together. Oh, what a shame! What a shame! But that was the first shocking, sudden scene that had happened in the film.
It's all been tense, building up. It's slow, and then suddenly you've got an explosion, loud.
But I thought that was a really well done scene. I don't know, what was your experience of that?
That was, it was obviously you were hoping that rat didn't set it off, and then it did. I mean, I didn't jump at it because I knew it was probably going to happen. Because as soon as he said tripwire, I was like, something's going to happen here. And then you got that massive rat trying to get past it, sets it off. But then that obviously shows as well, the realistic thing of when the armies left the trenches, they would place traps like this to catch them. To catch them off guard, and that's showing as well, burying them. That was common. It's a bit like they didn't obviously show any of it because they said it was out of action, but sap trenches. So it's the same as obviously when they would try and bury underneath the other line's trenches and then blow them up. Standard thing, but that was never shown. But this was kind of close to it because you could see obviously Schofield was buried, wasn't he? And obviously trying to dig him out as quick as he could before he died.
And immediately after that was a good one where he was blinded for the exit out of it. Tense moment, and I'm sure anyone who had I don't have it, but anyone, I think everyone has a little bit of it. Everyone who has severe claustrophobia must have been hating that scene, because even the idea of them getting buried under there is horrific to think about. But I think that was the first great scene of it, because I think all before that you've been appreciating the cinematography, especially before that, especially the scene when they've gotten through the barbed wire and they're trekking around that big puddle, that crater, and the camera's shifted from being with them to over the water, and that's when you just go, "Oh, how the hell? How did you do this?" But that was the first great scene that I thought was in it.
Definitely,
So the first, so that was probably the first set piece. I still need to find out what the terminology of a set piece is, but I'm using it as notable event that's happened in a dramatic way. So I think the next one was the plane, which seemed, and I'm going to go back again. Do you know the flash scene when he shoots the flare?
Yeah.
A small thing, they probably could have added it in post-production, editing it in, but when they turned the camera around and the flare was appearing behind him, I thought that was really good. They could add it in post, whatever. That. Anyway, the plane coming in, that was great as well, because the tension of them running away. What was your feeling around the scene? Obviously, because spoilers, I think that comes with talking about the podcast is going to be titled 1917. So your feeling around the German killing Blake.
Well, I think that was kind of coming as the German was obviously he was saved by them. I mean, obviously he'd be grateful for it, but also he doesn't want to be captured, does he? So it's the case of he had these two soldiers here. He asked them for water, one of them went to go and get it, so there was only one else there, wasn't he?
Mm.
So he was like, right, my chance to try and sort it out. So obviously he stabbed Blake in the stomach, and then, but because of that, he got shot.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of comic, really.
I mean, it's the gutting part about it is obviously Blake is the nice character. Like Schofield's been the one all this time. He's been like, I don't want to do this. Why did you volunteer for this? I just don't want to be doing this. He even talks about how he's traded his Medal of Honor for a bottle of French wine, saying he wants nothing to do with this. And Blake's been always the one carrying it forward, even rescuing him during that collapse in the trench, and trying to be nice, or at least trying to help this German who's either going to burn alive or he's attempting to at least save him. Yeah. So it's a very... It's filmed and it's a scene made to make you feel gutted for him.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously that takes it on to the tense point where he's dying. And obviously he's holding him, cradling him, and just talking to him. Yeah. Just to say, like, comforting him. Yeah. And that, again, would be another common thing in the war, seeing your friends dying, comforting them as they die, and then just having to leave them.
I mean, I didn't know, because I only knew about the film because we talked about it previously, but I didn't know. I thought it was a film of those two for the entire film, and I was very surprised that it turned into a main character of George McKay, or the main character of a solo film from that point onwards, which I was very surprised about because I thought he was the supporting character to Blake's
That's what I was
main
thinking,
character,
yeah.
and then it suddenly shifted to that, so which I thought was really good and quite surprising. I think, again, you talk about realism, was the leaving of his body, which was he drags him out the way, but then the captain comes along and says, like, you're a soldier, get up,
let's
leave
go.
him. Which is sad but realistic.
Take his tag.
Yeah, take his tag, take his stuff for his brother, take his rings and such like.
Yeah, let's go.
Some people were reacting fully in the cinema to that. They were going, is he nicking stuff? But no, just taking his jewellery, valuables, recognisable accessories, necklace for his family. Next one that I had down was the German sniper, or at least the German in the window. Yep. This was the first like hard cut in the film, and I think it's also the first one, the next bit of tension we have in the film, because it's like you and now George on his own, or Schofield on his own, and you're getting shot at, and especially going up the stairs when you're thinking, okay, is the German at the top of the stairs, has he been injured? Because after Schofield fires at the house, he doesn't fire back for a few times. You're thinking, has he already killed him?
You don't know.
Yeah.
Or has he just pinned him down?
It's just that putting you in the place of another. Yeah. Just putting you in the place. You know as much as Schofield does. There's no cut to the inside of the room to find out what's happened. No. You know as much as the character does, which is again is a great use of the cinematography and filming of it, and just the whole way the film is set.
Pretty good shot though.
Oh yeah. But then I was a bit confused because I didn't know if he'd been shot, like, because he obviously was shot, but I read into it a bit and it was apparently ricocheting bullets, like it hit something. I don't know if you saw it better than I did.
No, I think he definitely got shot, but I don't think it was it wasn't fatal, but it hurt him and everything. So he sat. Oh, as in when Schofield got it.
Yeah.
Oh right, I thought you meant the German. I think it hit his helmet. I think that's what I saw it because he had blood. Well, he had blood on the back of his head, and that was because of him banging his head. Yeah. But the way that I saw it, it was definitely that he got shot in the helmet, and the helmet obviously with that the force sent him back. But he obviously shot the German as well. Yeah. Which is bloody lucky because otherwise the German could have killed him. Afterwards.
And then that leads to he gets knocked out for hard cut and then goes to night. The meeting the French woman scene. Yeah. This was hilarious. Just before I go on, but hilarious thing I found on the internet was people complaining, going, "Why isn't there more women in the film?" Oh,
Why do you think?
I don't think we need to say much more.
Why do you think? I'm surprised they had so many black people in it because
I want to go on to that in a bit actually about like Sikh and Indian representation in it. Do you mind waiting a bit until we get to that?
Fine. Yeah, I'll wait for that.
But yeah, that's something I really liked and want to go on to a little bit in a minute. But meeting the French woman scene. Now, at the time of watching it, this scene annoyed me.
Yeah.
Because I was getting impatient. I was going, why is he messing about?
Just go.
Like, you've already been knocked out. You don't know how much time has passed because your watch is broken.
Yeah.
You don't know how long you've got until you can get to the Zachary and Devons. But it's only at the end when you find out that he's got daughters and a wife that you understand why. Like, he gives all the supplies, he gives everything. Why he's taking that time, and like it's obviously reminding him of his own family. But at the time, I was
it's like
come on, why are you messing
out?
Yeah,
the Germans have gone.
So I think good scene. It's a good scene now. At the time, I was just so nancy about it. I don't know. Do you have any different feelings on the?
No, I thought it was nice. It was kind of the way to expand his character to find a bit more about him. And obviously, it was showing like the tenseness of the French, obviously living there, because she was hiding downstairs to be away from the fighting,
and baby was just
and the baby wasn't even hers.
Yeah.
So it's a very tense thing, but it was nice to see that his character, obviously, he has got a sensitive side and wants to help.
Yeah. Again, stuff like the filming, like with the river scene when he jumps into the river. I mean, that was probably the second only relatively obvious cut because of the transition with the stuff behind. But the filming actually in the river, when he's in the river, that's real.
Yeah.
And not just in this film, but filming in general in any sort of water body must be difficult as anything.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in running water like it was.
Well, I think if obviously he messed up the film, he did have to get out, go back to where he was, get back in, do it again. So it's good. But that river scene, it was obviously he was relieved, wasn't he, to get away.
Yeah.
And knackered completely because he just had to run through half the town to get away from the Germans.
It was just utter exhaustion, wasn't it?
Exactly. Out. And then obviously it changed again to disgust because he was trying to climb out of the river over dead bodies.
Yeah.
And that was another like realistic thing. If you saw like some of the dead bodies, they'd obviously been in the water for quite a while because they were like bloated.
Yeah, swelling. Yeah. Very. And I found it quite hilarious. Behind the scenes of that was they filmed that in the River Tees in Teesdale, and the production had to put up signs everywhere warning walkers that there's bodies in the river, they're prosthetics, don't get.
Yeah, just calm.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Which is funny because you could imagine some they cordon off obviously, but some people could just walk past and like call the police. Like there's 10 bodies going down the river.
Why is there so many bodies here?
But you go into that after he gets out of the river and he's exhausted, and he finds these soldiers, which he doesn't know who they are, but they're the Second Evans, and he's just exhausted. Like he stops, and for a second I thought he died. Because he was just blanket stare at the singer. Eyes are gone. It's like thinking has failed. Just like .exe has stopped working. And then it's only after they say that it like reignites.
Yeah.
Like he's just so far gone after all this.
What do you think of the singing scene?
I think it's akin to the French scene. It's like a scene that's been it's been specifically made to like take a moment back from all the tension, from all the hype, because he's just come off from running from the river scene. It's just a moment for him and us to just take a second, have a breather basically.
But it also, I guess, shows a bit more of like realism and humanism, because like they're just about to go to the front line and they just want to listen to someone singing just to get them ready and to calm them down a bit.
And that's probably what the that's entertainment those days, isn't it?
Yeah.
Someone who's decent at singing, probably, if someone wasn't decent at singing, as in nowadays, you probably get something thrown at you.
Yeah, exactly.
But going ahead to the sprinting across the battlefield scene, you might know this, but when he was running off and he got knocked down by the extras, that wasn't planned. That was mistake, quotation marks, because they obviously used it. But for that running across the battlefield scene, they could only do that 4 times because they only had enough explosives to do it for 4 takes. So they said, no matter what happens, just keep running.
Yeah.
And he runs into various extras who are running like perpendicular to him.
Yeah.
And he gets knocked over, gets up, keeps running, gets knocked over again, keeps running. And I think that it's hilarious because a lot of people have said it, is that it's one of the best scenes because he gets knocked over, because it's more realistic. It's it could be considered weird if he'd missed everyone going down, but this was like the chaos of war, as it were.
Exactly, yeah. One thing I noticed when obviously watching that and the mistakes and stuff of him hitting people is that the first one that he hit
stays down
as if he died.
Yeah.
It's like
I noticed that, and it was one of those things. It's like
it messed up a bit there.
The reason apparently was the extra who got knocked down actually got a bit disorientated because of running into him. And it wasn't for like dramatic. He got a bit shook from it and fell down and stayed down. But it made the scene better. I know that was that thing for eagle-eyed watchers, but great scene overall. And a small thing to do with the filming of it was it was done through 2 cranes and some grips, which are like camera operators. So there's a crane following him, or using a crane attached to the camera following him through the trench, and then that transitioned onto the field, like it swung around onto the field. 2 grips, or a few grips, which are the camera operators, took it off that crane and then put it onto the truck, which then drove in front of Schofield, or George McKay, the actor, as he ran. And a funny thing was, those grips, they get paid for obviously being camera operators. But they were also dressed in extra attire. They were dressed in the attire as the runner, in army attire. So that after they'd moved it from the trench crane onto the truck crane, and then they just had to run across as if they were extras as well. So it was quite funny because they got paid as extras because they had to do a separate job that day.
It's not bad, is it?
The only thing other than that was the 2 daughters. So we talked about the 2 daughters scene, and I think that was a good way to end the film, because it's, again, this is understanding of like the scene he'd had with Blake when he was talking about how he hated going back home because he knows that he's going to have to leave them again. And then the scene with the French woman, which we spoke about, it's just added a lot of context throughout the back of the film, and is a very common scenario, I'd imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, I mean, I think the message of Sam Mendes said, it's like, it's not this big massive story, it's just a story of a messenger taking a message to try and save some people. It's not a hero story of sense. He's obviously a hero for saving so many people, but it's a very simple story of a soldier doing this. And a soldier is a soldier, he has a family. It's just a very good way to end the film, I thought it was. Was there anything else within the film that you wanted to talk about before I go into like some specifics in actors and all that stuff?
No, I think we've definitely covered it. I think we've shown like the realist of it, the tenseness, how it brings you into it. No, I think
add to those one. Hang on, which was Cumberbatch. After he has read the letter, has stopped the attack, or at least stopped the second wave going, was him just going, okay, thanks for sending the message, now get out and get yourself to the medical tent. That was it's like, because we think it's like, well, I at least had a little inkling, just like, wow, that's harsh. Like we've just watched an hour and a half of him doing all this to take this message, and he's like, okay, we've got the message, done it, get out, or get the F out. Again, it's realism. He's just taking back step, he's a soldier who's just done his job, which is what he's meant to do, his job.
Exactly.
So it's like he shouldn't he saved 1,600 people, but it's like his job, which he shouldn't be thanked for because he should be doing that anyway.
Yeah.
It's that weird.
Well, he got thanked anyway. It was like,
oh yeah, by that other guy.
Yeah.
It's that realism of it. I think that was good as well, even though in the moment you're just like, oh, yeah, what a git.
Well, that was it. I mean, it's like the Colonel's thing. He doesn't know what the guy's just been through. He's just seeing that he's got a message.
Yeah.
And then, all right, okay, I'll work off that now.
Yeah.
Go on, off you go.
Yeah. So, going to some of the casting of it there was a lot of big names.
Oh yeah.
Within this film that were given very small supporting roles of various extents, such as Mark Strong, who was a captain who found him after Blake. I liked his performance. It was very short, but
good enough.
Good enough, and he's a very well-known British actor. Especially liked the small scene. It didn't really have much of an effect at the end, but when he was talking about make sure you have witnesses.
Yeah.
To do with telling Colonel Mackenzie about the letter, about stopping the attack, to do with people enjoying war or enjoying the fight and having it as a bit of a rush.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Enjoyed Andrew Scott's character, which was so I'll go through actually some, so when I go through I'll say who the name. So Mark Strong, you may know him from Kingsman. He was also in Shazam. Some people don't know him. Do you know him from anything else?
Mark Strong, Grimsby. He's in Grimsby.
And Andrew Scott, people might know him from Sherlock, where he was Moriarty.
Yep.
He was also in one of the recent Black Mirrors, Smithereens. So I really liked his character. Was a funny one.
He was funny, yeah. Just didn't care, did he?
He was just dry because he was the new lieutenant. I don't know. I always get these positions.
He was a lieutenant, but his commanding officer had been killed 2 months before, so he was in charge now.
Yeah, and he was just dry as anything. Yep. He was just like, okay, fair enough. You've got orders. You can go over. Let's say you get there. Here's the flare. So it's like, if you're getting shot at, be a good boy and just chuck the thing over. We are running low of them.
Yeah.
Absolutely no care and just
off you go.
Very short, but really enjoyed his. Richard Madden.
Yep.
So that was Blake's brother at the end. People know him from Game of Thrones. What was the series you really like with him in?
Bodyguard.
Bodyguard. And I think there was one other I can't remember actually. But he plays Blake's brother. Again, short role, but it's that very...
It's good.
The only scene he's in it's intensely emotional, isn't it, for him? He's coming to do this one thing, which... It's an odd one, isn't it?
Yeah. But, well, you've got these big names only having little roles, but you'd rather not have someone who is a big actor be the lead roles, because it would make it would kind of dumb it down a little bit.
Yeah, I did want to say that to do with George McKay. I didn't know him from anything.
I've not known him from anything else.
And Dean Charles Chapman, who played the younger brother Blake, the only thing I knew him from was Tommen from Game of Thrones. Other than that, I didn't even recognise it was him until I looked into the cast. No. He just looks so different from being the kid that he was in Game of Thrones. But I didn't recognise either of them, even after knowing it was Tommen afterwards. And I think there was a reason for it, but I think at least one of the reasons must have been it would take you out of experience.
Exactly. I think definitely with Chapman, it was a good idea because I saw that they were at first in discussions for Blake to be played by Tom Holland.
Yeah.
And that would have done it.
It's those things. It's such a famous face, or it's someone playing a character, but these were two people that some people may have recognised, but most people just saw as those characters, which made it a lot better.
I mean, it's like the general at the start, very short role, but it's Colin Firth.
Yeah.
So
I don't think I need to say who he is.
No. So little roles for big people makes it a bit better.
Yeah. And that just fitted him. He's been in a few things like that, so definitely spotted him. Cumberbatch at the end, Colonel Mackenzie. From the trailers, I thought he was like a bigger part of it, but I guess it's the same with all of them, isn't it?
Doesn't matter.
But he does that well. And Daniel Mays, he was. Do you know him? Daniel Mays. He's the guy from the very start. He's like the first senior one who wakes them up.
Oh, the sergeant, yeah.
And he's been in stuff like Ashes to Ashes and other detective programs. But I like him as an actor. I've seen him in a couple of things. And then just as a bit of a shout out to the names of, obviously it was Sam Mendes, who's the director, who did such a great job, and Roger Deakins, who did all the cinematography.
Yep.
I thought it was worth giving him an exceptional shout out because
it was pretty good.
That's what made the film. Academy Awards, we mentioned this a little bit a couple of weeks ago, but first it got included by showing a private screening to like reviewers and I imagine people at the Academy like 2 weeks before the end of the year.
Yeah.
Just so that it'd be able to be included in 2019, which we've talked about how it's quite hilarious how they just like nipped in at the end.
It was like, nah, we don't want to wait another year.
Yeah.
So let's do it this year.
But I wanted to go through some of the ones. I've not gone through all of them because some of them I don't actually understand, and didn't have time to like read through what they meant. But some that I think it could win, and some that I think it's got a bit of competition. So, Best Picture, I think it potentially could, but I've not watched enough of the rest of them to know. And
I think it might be between that and Joker.
Yeah,
when it comes to it.
Even though I enjoyed this immensely, I enjoyed the film of Joker more.
Yeah.
So that goes on to the next one, which is like cinematography. I think it's going to win that easily.
Easily that one.
I would hope so, at least.
Yeah.
Best director, I think he could also potentially win it.
I'd say so. It's again, I think it might be between them and Joker. I haven't watched enough of the other ones to say, but
I mean, I'd say 1917 beats Joker for director.
Especially for something like that.
Yeah. Original screenplay. Now, this is the thing to do with. I don't particularly know how they judge them because I know adapted is just like Joker's in adapted because it's based off like the DC stuff. But in original screenplay, the Parasite, we mentioned this a couple of times, or I mentioned it a couple of times, was the Korean film. I think that, from what I've heard, I think that'll win original screenplay.
Yeah.
But it won't win Best Picture.
Yeah.
And something like 1917 or Joker will win Best Picture. I think in the original screenplay section, though, I think Parasite will win that from what I've heard. But obviously, 1917 is a great film.
Yeah.
And any films that we've not even mentioned could win it as well. It's just because we've not had chance.
We've not seen them
to watch them, and some I'm not really interested in, just because of topics and our interests. Sound editing and mixing, I don't know the difference between the two. I could probably guess what they mean, but I think I think it's got a good chance of winning it because the way the music was, the sound was, keeping you like the tense moments, sound rising. Like a small one that I remember was when they first go into the German trenches, like the music's building before they get there because if they're there, they're going to get killed immediately. If they're not there, they're fine. And they're not there because otherwise the film would end immediately. Yeah. But just the sound of it was keeping that tension all the way up and throughout the whole film. So I think sound, from my limited knowledge of how they judge it, I think it's got a shot of it. I am a bit gutted because it's not been nominated for costume design. No. Which I was very surprised about because I thought, it was
realistic,
and I thought there was a lot of deviations between Blake had his entire thing was full of pockets and stuff and that was different from Schofield's, which was like bigger and thicker, and then every different position had different costume. Mark Strong is probably the one that I remember most vividly of being different. Andrew Scott's, it was very loose, I think. Cumberbatch's, it was like tight fitting and everything, like probably representing being very uptight. Yeah. But I was surprised it wasn't nominated at least. So that's everything for the Academy Awards. And like I said earlier,
it was nominated for Best Score as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's another one though. I'm not entirely sure.
I think scores music.
That just the general music of it.
I think it's the general music. That's what I think. I've looked into it because I did hear something about it when I was watching a YouTube video about something else, and he said about the score of it. So it's like the music or the opening music or stuff, or like the signature music of the film.
Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah, if that's
possibly.
Yeah.
But we don't know.
Because with Joker, I'm calling back to Joker because those are the only ones we've seen really.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps you in it, but it's two different topics. Like, I don't know. I just felt the music overall with the film, it was better in 1917.
Yeah.
Which is odd to say because I'm also saying that I thought Joker was the better, not better film, but I enjoyed the story more. It was a better, in that regard, better story, better film. So you mentioned this earlier, and coming back to it now, was inclusion of Indian soldiers of so that was like a Sikh Indian soldier representing and being more historically accurate. So I just wanted to, because it's what I've enjoyed about making this podcast is learning a lot from researching and preparation for this was 1.5 million Indian soldiers of Muslim, Sikh, Hindu, various fought in the First World War with like the Allied from the British Empire. 80,000 Indians died from it, and I thought it was. It's a weird one because it's the way it was shot. It like turned. It was meant to be not a shock, if you know what I mean, but it was meant to be like, yes, we are showing this. We are showing this inclusion.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really good. There's been a thing in the thing recently with an actor. I'm not going to name who the actor is because I don't really care about all this going after. But he said something along the lines of it's incongruent to the story, which means it takes you out of the experience by including him, which I think is rubbish.
Yeah, it is. I mean, in a way though, really, they should have included more because one Sikh or Indian person is not going to be in that regiment. It's going to be a full load of them.
Yeah.
So in a way, they should have included more, but it was good to include it because it showed that was what happened.
And that was the purpose of like the inclusion, isn't it? It's being historically accurate.
They were there. It wasn't just British people. It was everyone from the Empire.
Yeah.
Like you could have a trench. You could have British in the middle. You could have to the left the Australians, the New Zealand. Then you could have Indians next, South Africans. You could have everyone. Yeah. Everyone could be in there.
I think it was a really good inclusion, and I really liked that they did that. Or Sam Mendes did that, I should say. So, bit into the filming of it. So they were done through jeep, motorcycle, running, cranes, wires. It's just impressive what they've made nowadays because the cameras have to be so light, so that they have to run it, and then like you've seen the stabilization things that they have where things spinning around and it's going, how the heck is it staying straight? And it's just because of how incredible the stabilizers must be on it.
Exactly. Like it's so straight and everything in it and level throughout the entire filming. Like it's not jerky, it's not running. And
when you see watching behind the scenes, people are literally running with this camera, jumping over things, like going past actors, going on this rubbly set, and the camera, because of this, the stabilizer and the way it's built, it's staying focused, and it's just like, how the heck did someone built that?
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
And in terms of building the sets, like they never use the same set twice. They always progress. Like they never visit the first place, and it's accurate, but it's not like reusing a set, which people can previously do because it saves money and some time. But that was also a really good thing because it's accurate.
Exactly,
and it's just great. An interesting one that I watched on an Insider video, I think the YouTube channel's called. You can find it online if you just put in like 1917. It'll come up with a video saying how 1917 was filmed. But before they did any construction work or built anything, they built small models of every set they were going to use. So that's like the trenches, the farm, the French town. They built it all, and especially with the French town, which I want to mention, where it's a ruin, so they bombed to hell and everything. But because it was predominantly lighted by flares during the scene when he's running, they, on this small set that they built, which was just like on a tabletop, but it was very accurately made in a 3D, whatever it was, and they used small lights around this small set to show how light would actually interact in the actual things. So this 3D small set that they make, it just like fits on a tabletop, rather large table, but they use that with small lights around it to find out how they're going to do it on a full set, using flares or at least similar looking lights, which I think is a very impressive way of doing it. And
I mean, I think I noticed, what was a trivia bit today, that when they were using those flares, they were on wires going across it so they could control where the shadows were and everything, which is a good idea.
So, and to do with the constructions of the sets, they had to, because everything was built in real time, like they acted in real time, they walked in real time, everything was about time. They had to build the sets to how long it would take the actors to walk it. It couldn't be, they could obviously make it shorter, but then the actors would have to do smaller steps, or they would have to run or something like that. And to rehearse that, they started rehearsals 4 months prior on the land that they were going to build the sets, to see how long it would take them and see how large these trenches had to be built. And to put that in perspective, like 4 months prior rehearsal, this is again learning stuff from this sort of thing, is the director or cinematographer, I think it was, said rehearsals for normal films can be done the day before or the day of filming, of shooting it, because they can go, okay, this is how we're going to do it, we're going to do a day of rehearsals and then tomorrow we're going to shoot it. And this was done 4 months back because they had to get the timing right on how long they're going to be walking, what they're going to be saying, when they're going to be saying it. Especially like with scenes during the running scene at the end, where I think he ran for a quarter of a mile, but they had to measure that out to find out where they had to build in the trench for him to jump down at the end of it. And then the final thing I had on it was to do with, again, the last thing I had on filming on it was the light. It was mostly done by natural lighting. And in order for that to be consistent, they couldn't film when it was either sunny or too gloomy. It was like, it just had to be when it was like cloudy.
As it was, as you could see.
Because it was meant to be done in real time. So I think the cinematographer said on the first day they couldn't do anything because it was sunny. And obviously they couldn't rely, it's British weather. We have glorious British weather. But they couldn't shoot on the first day because it was sunny. And apparently the company like called them up saying, okay, how's the first day of shooting gone today? We haven't done out. But just a huge amount's been done for this film.
Definitely.
And it's been totally worth it. It's an amazing film. But yeah, that's everything I had written down. Was there anything for you?
No, I have covered everything that I've wrote.
Yeah, if you've not watched the film yet, I would definitely check it out. Cinema experience is amazing, and it's just an amazing feat of cinematography, and I think one of the most realistic and historically accurate war films that has been made of all time. I don't think I'm being over the top in saying that.
Nothing's come. There's been things that have come close, but that was amazingly realistic,
spot on. I think I've seen.
The only thing that I'd probably say that could come close would be the opening part of Saving Private Ryan.
But yeah, amazing film. Check it out. It's great. Well, thank you very much for listening. We are on social media at Twitter at _whatsonpodcast and Instagram, YouTube at the What's On Podcast. If you would like to leave a review, that would help us greatly. Because apparently that spreads the message and all that with the algorithms and all that. So that would be very kind of you. Thank you very much for listening.
Cheers.